Welcome back to the Living in Savannah channel. I'm James Sedley. In my last episode, I broke down the recent release from the National Association of Realtros entitled 10 Questions to Ask a Buyer's Agent. If you haven't already done so, you may want to watch that video first before returning to this one, as I'll be taking on the last 5 of those questions today as a continuation. Before jumping into those last 5 suggested questions, though, let me take a moment to thank you for tuning into these videos, for subscribing. Please do so if you haven't already, and for liking and sharing those videos you find of interest. Sincerest thanks on all counts, and now let's dig into those NAR suggested questions, beginning with number 6. What will be included in our written buyer agreement? I posted at length about these now required buyer agreements in a series of episodes here on the channel a couple of months ago, so I will not go on at length here other than to reiterate that while a lot of the buyer representation agreement is boilerplate language, the meaningful terms are all negotiable. Be sure that you understand and feel comfortable with what each prospective agent is asking of you and what they are committing to you before signing. And if in doubt, either keep hunting for a different agent or, worst case, keep your commitment as specific and short as possible, at least initially. For example, for showing just one property. As to my answer, generally, I wish these agreements weren't necessary at all, as was the case before the NAR settlement, because my philosophy and approach is that I should be earning your professional commitment to me on an ongoing basis, not up until and because you sign an agreement saying so. That brings us to number 7. How long will we work together? I see this as redundant with the prior question, as this is almost certainly going to be spelled out explicitly in the written buyer agreement. Between a client and their agent. And again, as noted in the discussion of the last question, this is entirely negotiable, so make sure your expectations align with your prospective agents. As far as my answer, it will absolutely depend on the nature of our working relationship, but again, my intent is not to enforce any sort of contractual handcuffs. So for example, if you're coming on a home scouting trip for the first time and have an indefinite buying timeline, I might suggest a 2 to 4 week duration for the buyer agreement to ensure that we will work well together before committing for the longer term. If we've been out looking at houses together for an extended period, the duration of the agreement and any extensions to it will logically be longer than that. Brings us to number 8. What are my options for paying you? If some of the prior questions could have been NAR suggestions a year or a decade ago just as easily, this is probably the primary one that reflects the changed landscape post-settlement. While I've shared elsewhere on this channel why I do not see and have not seen in closings since the settlement took effect, the reality on the ground here changing meaningfully, it is important in this new world of real estate to have a clear and shared understanding with your agent about how they will be compensated. This has always been negotiable, but practically the buyer's agent commission was paid out of the seller's proceeds, either indirectly or directly. While in most cases that is still likely to be the way things play out, albeit explicitly and directly much more frequently now, buyer's agents won't be agents at all for very long if they don't have some insurances in place that they will be compensated for their efforts in some way, which may mean you paying them. Lots of options that I've gotten into more deeply elsewhere. But as for my answer, while it depends upon your particular home search context, my aim is to ensure that you as a buyer are not paying any more at closing than you would have paid pre-settlement. I feel confident our buyer's agreement and the way that we approach contract negotiations will ensure that that is the case. Brings us to number 9. Can you recommend service providers who can help me obtain a mortgage, make home repairs, or support other closing tasks? And with that, we return to the basic questions that applied when I bought my first home so many years ago and that still apply now. If an agent cannot point you in the right direction with these kinds of referrals, you may want to keep interviewing prospective agents. No surprise here, right? But my answer is that I'd be happy to make those referrals now and years from now, after you've owned your home for a while and issues may unfortunately creep up. And that brings us to our final question, and the suggested question, that's number 10, which is, do you have references I can speak with? That's another basic question that all but the newest of agents are going to be happy to respond to. That said, I would just offer a couple caveats here. First, no competent agent is going to provide you with a reference that is likely to be anything but positive or probably glowing. So take that with a grain of salt and maybe decide if it is worth your time even to ask for references. Second, if you do want to consult references, ask about references whose circumstances were similar to yours. For example, if you are relocating to the area, those glowing references from locals who have known the agent for decades might not be as applicable. So my answer to this question, absolutely. I can provide you with a list as long as you like, but I would advise you to put more stock in some of the other questions and answers I've discussed in these last two videos versus some stranger's experience. Trust your assessment and your instincts, and you'll be much more likely to find the right fit, I believe. Thanks again for tuning in today. I hope this discussion has been useful to you in navigating this exciting but potentially daunting at times process of buying a new home. As always, please do not hesitate to contact me anytime if there's anything that I can do to be of help. If I can answer any questions or certainly help you with your home search or selling, I'd be more than honored to do so. And until then, please do keep subscribing, liking, and sharing, and I'll look forward to seeing you in the next episode.